Alright, picture this. You're chatting with someone about the coolest motorcycle brands, and boom, Yamaha pops up like, hey, I'm here to steal the show. Let's be real, when you think of motorcycles, Yamaha's like the rock star of the scene. They've pumped out some seriously iconic bikes over the years. This bad boy is the poster child for middleweight sport bikes. It's got this aggressive vibe and a seat position that screams, let's go fast, baby. I mean, this thing is all about speed and performance. It's like music to your ears when that engine revs up and blasts past you on the track. The R6 was the first of its kind to roll off the production line with a 600cc engine that pumped out over 100 horsepower straight out of the factory. That's like having a rocket strapped to your back. And talk about speed, this beast could hit 165 miles per hour, making it the king of the track and scoring the 2011 Supersport Championship. But here's the kicker, it wasn't just for hardcore racers. Even us regular riders who crave a taste of that speed demon life could hop on and feel the power. Sadly though, Yamaha pulled the plug on the R6 in 2020, leaving us all mourning the loss of this legendary ride. But fear not, my fellow motorcycle enthusiasts. In this video, we're taking a deep dive into the rise and fall of the Yamaha R6. So grab your snacks and buckle up, cause we're about to embark on one wild ride through motorcycle history. The YZF-R6 was born in '99, so it's legal to party now. And boy, has it made a name for itself as the go-to bike if you're serious about tearing up the racetrack. This bad boy is all about that track life, whether you're ready for it or not. And if you've ever had the guts to rev that engine to a crazy 16,000 RPM, you know the thrill it brings. Forget all the fancy talk, this bike kicks butt. When the R6 was fresh on the scene, this bike was a beast, plain and simple. It had power, it had handling, it was the whole package. In fact, when it hit the tracks, it gave other bikes a run for their money. It held its own against heavy hitters like Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Honda. And get this, the guys testing it were no joke either. We're talking about real pros here like Paul, Harold, and Roland Sands, who's basically a legend in the motorcycle world. The R6 wasn't just a beast on the track, it was surprisingly affordable too. Back in '99, you could snag one for just $8,000. Sure, that might sound like chump change, but when you adjust for today's prices, that's like shelling out $12,500. So yeah, the R6 might have aged, but its price tag hasn't changed much. It's still a steal for all the thrills it offers. Alright, so picture this, it's the early 2000s and everyone's buzzing about updating their super sport bikes every 2 years. Why? Well, partly because of the radical R6 shaking things up. This bike was a game changer and it pushed other brands to up their game too. In 2001, Yamaha decided to give the R6 a little makeover. Nothing too crazy, just some minor tweaks to keep things fresh. You know how it is in the world of sport bikes, always trying to shave off a few ounces here and there, make things a bit lighter and snappier. Suzuki wasn't about to let Yamaha steal the show. Nope, they beefed up their GSX-R 600 that same year, trying to one-up the competition. It was like a showdown between the two titans of the track, and we were just along for the ride. Exploring the realm of turn-of-the-century 600cc bikes unveils a surprising similarity to modern models in terms of power and weight. However, here's where things get spicy. Back then, the real game changer was all about brakes and fancy electronics. The 2001 World Supersport Shootout was like the ultimate showdown of badass bikes. You had Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda, and even Ducati throwing their bikes into the mix. It was like a battle royale of motorcycles. But here's the twist. Instead of just focusing on how fast these bikes could go on the track, this time around, they cared more about how they handled on the streets. And guess what? R6 still ruled the streets. Sure, its chassis wasn't the flashiest, but that engine, pure gold. And those brakes, oh man, they were like stopping on a dime. No wonder the R6 had everyone feeling some serious emotions back then. The 2003 R6 was a significant milestone for Team Yamaha, receiving a major makeover and fuel injection. I purchased it back then and still own it today, showing true loyalty to the brand. The R6 was like lightning on two wheels, super quick and responsive. And get this, they decked out the engine with all sorts of fancy stuff, like this suction piston fuel injection system. It's got sensors, injectors, and even a wax-filled sensor for those chilly mornings. Talk about high tech. What really sets Yamaha apart is how they use these vacuum diaphragms to smooth out the power delivery. It's like butter, I tell ya. Now, let's rewind a bit to the good old days of the FZR 600. Compare FZR 600 to the R6 and it's like comparing a rusty old jalopy to a sleek, shiny sports car. This baby was worth the wait. And here's a fun fact. I have been absolutely in love with the R6 ever since I bought it almost new 20 years ago. It has been my constant companion on the streets for many years, and then I decided to turn it into a stunt bike and pushed its limits to the extreme. After that, I took it to the track, participated in races, and even managed to win a championship with it. Needless to say, I have no intentions of parting ways with my beloved R6 anytime soon. Now that's true love, folks. 2005 R6, it was a game changer. This bad boy brought some serious upgrades, like inverted forks and fancy radial mount brake calipers. But hold on, there's more to it than just fancy brakes. My buddy Sean, aka Dirty, was one of the first to take this baby for a spin, and boy, did he have a blast. They slapped on a bigger front tire to solve some wobbly issues, and the engine got a boost too. Yamaha claimed they added 3 extra horses, and guess what? They weren't pulling our leg. Sean hit the track with this beast and felt like a total boss. He was outbraking expert racers left and right, even if it meant going a bit off course. But no worries, this baby's nimble chassis helped him get back on track in no time. When comparing the 2005 R6 to other 600cc bikes, things took an unexpected turn. Despite the Kawasaki ZX-6R boasting impressive specs on paper, the R6 emerged as the most comfortable option for everyday riding. When it comes to raw power, the R6 held its own. It might not have been the fastest in a straight line, but on the track, it was a force to be reckoned with. So next time you see a 2005 R6 zooming past, just remember, it's not just about the brakes and forks, it's about the whole package. At the racetrack, where these bikes feel right at home, the gang was torn between which one they'd want to take home. They're all so good that it's like trying to pick your favorite flavor of ice cream. But since we're talking about the R6 here, I wouldn't think twice about owning or racing any of these bikes. But if I had to pick, I'd probably go for the Kawasaki ZX-6R because it's light and packs a punch. However, it can be a bit twitchy, like a hyperactive puppy. So if you're new to racing or just like to take it easy, maybe skip the Kawasaki. If we're talking about pure track performance, the Honda steals the show with its top-notch chassis. As for the R6 and GSX-R, the gang leans towards the Suzuki because it's got some extra goodies like a factory steering damper. The R6 might be a tad faster, but it can get a bit wild and wobbly when pushed to the limit. And guess what? After averaging out the lap times, the R6 ended up snagging the bronze medal. Not too shabby, right? Alright, buckle up because we're diving into the wild ride of the 2006 R6. This year was like laying down the blueprint for all the R6s that followed. The engine, it was a beast, pumping out a solid 111 horsepower. And get this, they claimed it could rev up to a crazy 17,500 revolutions per minute. But turns out that was just a tall tale. Still, hitting 16,000 revolutions per minute is no joke. The engine, it was a beast, pumping out a solid 111 horsepower. And get this, they claimed it could rev up to a crazy 17,500 RPM. But turns out that was just a tall tale. Still, hitting 16,000 RPM is no joke. The fancy stuff, they gave the R6 a brand new engine with all the bells and whistles, titanium valves, high-tech fuel injection, you name it. Plus, they beefed up the chassis, making it stiffer and sharper for better handling. The suspension got a serious upgrade too, perfect for those racetrack junkies. And don't even get me started on the brakes. They could stop you on a dime. All these upgrades came at a price, literally. The 2006 R6 was a grand more expensive than the previous model. But hey, when you're getting top-notch performance, who's counting pennies? Now, when they put the 2006 R6 to the test against other bikes, it held its own. Sure, it tied for second place, but let's be real, it's happiest when tearing up the racetrack. So if you're looking for a bike that's a little bit wild, a little bit precise, and a whole lot of fun, the 2006 R6 might just be your ticket to two-wheeled glory. So let's talk about the 2008 R6. People were yapping about it being a bit of a slouch in the low end, and Yamaha heard them loud and clear. They decided to spruce things up a bit with a mid-cycle refresh. They threw in this fancy thing called YCCI, which is basically like having a magic wand that adjusts how much oomph you get at different revs. Plus, they beefed up the engine, tweaked the exhaust, and made some other nerdy adjustments to squeeze out more power. But here's the kicker, despite all these fancy upgrades, the 2008 R6 didn't quite hit the mark in our Super Sport shootout. It ended up dead last, which is like being the last kid picked for dodgeball. Why, you ask? Well, according to our trusty testers, the R6 was a bit of a diva. It needed more effort to turn, the brakes were a bit meh, and it wasn't exactly a cuddly companion on the road. Basically, it was like dating someone who's only interested in winning races, not taking leisurely strolls. So if you're a hardcore racer looking for a track monster, the 2008 R6 might be your jam. But if you're just a regular Joe looking for a fun ride, you might want to swipe left on this one. It's like a never-ending roller coaster ride of upgrades. And here we are, back again with another Super Sport shootout just a year after the last one. This time, we rounded up all the 600cc contenders except for our buddy, the Triumph Daytona 675, and put them through their paces on the streets and the tracks. Kawasaki rolled out the red carpet with an updated ZX-6R, boasting a beefed-up engine and a meaner look. Some of the bikes, including our beloved R6, seem to have misplaced their horsepower. It's like they went on vacation. You see, these bikes usually revved up with well over 100 horses, but suddenly the Honda CBR 600 RR and the R6 were struggling to hit that magical mark straight out of the factory. What's the deal, right? Well, it turns out Uncle Sam's sound rules got stricter, so manufacturers had to slap on some electronic doodads to quiet down the bikes. And guess what? Those doodads were like sneaky little butterflies, closing up shop in the upper rev range, making those horses vanish faster than a magician's rabbit. But hey, dyno graphs only tell part of the tale. When it comes to the R6, Yamaha tried to beef up its mid-range by tweaking some ride-by-wire settings. Our testers agreed that the Yamaha pulled better in the middle, but it still fell short compared to the other 600S. Overall, it's the same old story for the R6 sporty seating, A killer chassis, brakes that are just average, and killer looks. Sure, the aftermarket scene has patched up some of the R6's power pitfalls, but straight out of the box, it struggled to keep up with the competition. So unfortunately, it landed in last place on both the streets and the tracks. Unfortunate outcome, R6. So how did our beloved R6 fare on the track and street this time? Well, let's just say it's like listening to a broken record. It's got that classic racy vibe and looks sharp as a tack, but when it comes to everyday street riding, it's a bit like trying to use a race car for grocery shopping. The mid-range power is about as scarce as a unicorn in rush hour traffic. And those brakes? Meh, they're just okay. The R6's got style, it's got history, but its street performance is like a soggy sandwich, not quite hitting the spot. But hey, don't lose hope just yet. Thanks to the magic of the aftermarket world, the R6 can still shine on the track, even if it's a bit of a dud on the streets. 2017 was like the beginning of the end for our buddy, the R6. It was the last time Yamaha gave it a major makeover. In my review of the 2017 R6, I took a trip down memory lane, reminiscing about how this bike ruled the racetrack since way back in 1999. The R6 was always about tearing up the track first, and once tuners worked their magic to unleash its full potential, it became a force to be reckoned with. But hey, times change, right? The electronic era swooped in, bringing fancy gadgets mostly to the big powerful superbikes. And guess what? The 2017 R6 got a taste of that tech too, borrowing some cool features from its big brother, the YZF-R1. Plus, Yamaha gave it a makeover to make it more aerodynamic, like a sleek missile slicing through the air. Now you might be wondering, did they soup up the engine too? Nope, it stayed the same. By then, the 600cc sport bike world was kinda fading away, so Yamaha didn't bother tinkering with the engine. And now, with stricter rules on emissions in Europe, the R6's days were numbered. Don't get me wrong, the new R6 still rocks. I mean, it's a blast to rev up that little engine and zoom around the track. And with all those electronic safety gizmos, it's like having a guardian angel watching over you. In my video, I kinda said the R6 was the sharpest tool in the shed for anyone looking to dive into the sport bike world. Oops. Looks like I might have spoken too soon, considering Yamaha decided to put the brakes on the 600cc sport bike game. Alright, the 2020 R6 and Kawasaki's ZX6R? The R6 is like a racehorse, all aggressive and laser focused for the track, while the Kawasaki's more like your trusty steed, ready for anything the street or track throws its way, and it's still got some serious zip. And just like that, I'm wrapping up my trip down memory lane with the R6. Well, at least all the stuff I could dig up in the MO time machine. It's been a wild ride, but hey, all good things must come to an end, right? Now, if you're across the pond in Europe, don't fret. The R6 isn't going extinct just yet. It'll still be around for track use. Yamaha USA couldn't confirm the same for us here. But hey, even if you can't snag a fresh one, the used market's bursting with R6s, so you won't be left in the dust. Here's to whatever Yamaha's cooking up next for the middleweight sport bike scene. Until then, thanks for the memories, R6. Alright everyone, that's a wrap for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it. Your support is what keeps us going strong, and we're incredibly grateful to have such an awesome community backing us up. If you found this video informative or entertaining, do us a solid and spread the love by sharing it with your pals. And hey, if you haven't already, show us some love by giving that like button a solid thump to help boost the channel. Oh, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell icon so you never miss out on our latest adventures. Stay tuned for more thrilling journeys ahead.